We're reading the next chapter of Hiawatha, but I first wanted to show you. This is the original. It's a long poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. That's what this children's book is based on. And this book, it's in a cover. This was my father's, so your great-grandfather's. And the illustrations are by Valenti Angelo, who was an illustrator that my father knew and worked with, an old Italian fellow, and we knew him. So this beautiful book here is The Song of Hiawatha by Longfellow. And I just wanted to show you some of the illustrations and the beautiful printing. That's what my father did. He printed with these pieces of type, could pick out the different typefaces, lettering, and how to arrange them on a page. These are some of the other illustrations. He made about 6 Valenti Angelo and then used them over and over on each page. So they would have been scenes of the Indians who lived where Hiawatha lived, which was a Minnesota area, kind of going out to the plains even. William went to school there. We've hiked around there a little bit, Robert and I. You have the white tree trunks there. You have animals like marmots and martens. Very thick forest, lots of lakes. People in canoes, using canoes to get around and to hunt. So we'll read some of the poems, some of the pieces of this long poem during the time we're reading the Hiawatha book. But I thought I'd just read you the introduction, part of the introduction. It says, this Indian Edda, if I may so call it, this is Longfellow speaking about his book, is founded on a tradition prevalent among the North American Indians of a personage of miraculous birth, Hiawatha, who was sent among them to clear their rivers, forests, and fishing grounds, and to teach them the arts of peace. He says this was based on the verbal narrations of an Onondaga chief, and the scene of the poem is among the Ojibways on the southern shore of Lake Superior in the region between the Pictured Rocks and the Grand Sable. And this would have been in the 1800s. We'll have to look up exactly when that was. Okay, back to our book, Hiawatha. I had this when I was little. My sisters and I used to read this all the time. Okay, so he shot his first deer last time with the bow and arrow that his friend made him. He's still a young man. And he had his fight with Mujikuis, who sent him back among his people. Then Hiawatha started homeward. His heart had cooled and his anger was forgotten. The land lay pleasant all about him. Only once he paused in the land of the Dakotas, where the falls of Minnehaha flashed and gleamed among the oak trees, laughed and leaped into the water. Here he stopped to buy some heads for his arrows, for here lived an old arrowhead maker skilled in making arrowheads of great sharpness and smoothness. And the arrow maker's lovely daughter lived with him. Her laughter was as musical as the waterfall from which her father had named her Minnehaha, Laughing Water. Was it really to buy arrowheads that Hiawatha stopped in the land of the Dakotas? Perhaps it was to see the lovely Indian maiden. Who shall say what thoughts and dreams filled the young man's heart when he saw Minnehaha? But to old Nokomis, when he reached home, he told only of his meeting with his father, not a word about arrows, not a word of laughing water. Hiawatha's fasting. Now Hiawatha went alone to the forest to fast. He built himself a wigwam. For 7 days and nights he did not eat. He prayed, asking the Indian god Manitou to show him how to help his people. The first day when the deer ran from him, he thought, if the deer become too few, the Indians will starve. The next day when he saw the wild berries and the grapes, he thought, when winter comes, there will be no more. The third day, as he watched the fish swim in the sunny lake, he thought, a hot summer might dry up the lakes and kill the fish. What then would the red men eat? On the fourth day, as he lay watching the setting sun, there suddenly appeared before him a young man dressed in green and yellow garments. Plumes of green bent over his forehead, and his hair was soft and golden. I am Mondamin, the young man said. The great Manitou has sent me to tell you he has heard your prayers. The red men shall have food, but it will take struggle and labor. Come now and wrestle with me. Hiawatha was weak from fasting, but he obeyed, and as he wrestled, his strength returned. Then Mondamin vanished, as quickly as if he had sunk into the ground. Next day at sunset, Mondamin came again and wrestled with Hiawatha, and the day after they wrestled even longer. When they stopped, Mondamin smiled. Tomorrow, Hiawatha, you will win, he told him. Then, as I lie like one dead, strip me of my clothes and bury me. Make the ground above me soft and light. Watch carefully over me and let no weeds grow on that place till I awake and leap into the sunshine. All this Hiawatha did. He covered Mondamin with soft earth, kept it free of weeds, and drove away the crows. At last, a small green shoot began to come up from the ground, then another and another. And before the summer ended, there were many fields of these beautiful plants, all taller than a man. They had green leaves and yellow tassels that waved behind them in the wind. It is Mondamin, Hiawatha told his people. Then he called to old Nokomis and Iaglu, the great boaster, showed them where the maize was growing, told them of his wondrous vision, of his wrestling and his triumph, of this new gift to the nations, which should be their food forever. And when autumn had turned the leaves to yellow, and the soft and juicy kernels grew hard and yellow, Hiawatha gathered the ripened ears of corn. He stripped off the withered husks, as he had once stripped the wrestler, and gave a big feast in honor of Mondamin. That's the end of that chapter.